Hi, this is Peter Godinez, your ambassador with K80Y TV, and it's one of our favorite times again, the George and Peter Hour. And I think we should have a jingle for that, but let's keep it a low budget here. Quarter hour, okay. But anyway, he's here, George, to be able to tell us a few things that traditional media just seems to miss in the Oxnard area. So, George, less of me, more of you. So you take it from here.
Good morning, Oxnard. Hello, folks. Some good news for a change. Last night at the City Council meeting, a proposal was advanced to create a monument for Cesar Chavez, who many of you know was born and raised here, and a very famous advocate for farm workers' rights, world famous. Very, very well accepted by the council, and they want to put it in a prominent position. But what was interesting is a couple of people got up and talked who knew Cesar Chavez, worked with him, knew his family. One of the interesting things also happens that Bert Perillo, a councilman, proposed a change in the scope of the monument from just Cesar Chavez to all the farm workers with Cesar Chavez as the leader, and the representatives of the farm workers accepted that immediately on the spot. There was some talk about who was going to pay for this whole thing, and they're going to be raising donations to do it. They're going to be reaching out to people in the near future to begin that process and decide what the monument will look like and where it will be. They want to put it in a very prominent place somewhere in the center of town, if possible. Second major topic, probably the biggest one last night at the City Council meeting, was the proposed Ormond Beach restoration. I must say I was a little surprised by the scope of what was proposed. For years they've been talking about trying to bring it back to its pristine original condition, you know, the beach and the dunes and stuff like that. And there's a couple of big impediments. You know, one of them is the large power plant, which is nearing the end of its useful life, most likely in 2020, but not certainly. And the toxic waste site, Halico dump, and other businesses in the area. So there's the little problem of acquiring the rights to that land, which won't be cheap. If you add up the cost of taking over the power plant facility, demolishing the structure, doing environmental remediation, I've heard estimates of $70 million plus. The Halico site is unknown. So the question is, how would all this be paid for? Well, the group last night presented a report that was funded by the Coastal Commission. And what they're actually proposing is not only to restore things to their pristine condition, but also to do some fairly extensive development, which would involve a welcome center, an auditorium, different businesses, and also bringing in University of California to do a research facility and a demonstration farm. The scope of this looks pretty large to me, and the cost is rather huge, actually. It's a very ambitious project that would be done over not years, but probably decades. The response to it was fairly positive, but a few people brought up some objections about the financing, property rights, whether or not development was really suitable for that site, the proximity of the base and possible interference, and whether that particular site would actually help promote Oxnard, or would it be really more promotion for Camarillo, which is actually the gateway in there through Las Posas, or maybe Rice Avenue coming down. And the question is, once that site was developed, would that also trigger other development in the area, tourism development? So those are some of the things that are being discussed right now. It was presented to the public. I guess it was the first time at the City Council meeting last night. Public comment is welcome. They are having regular meetings to discuss this. So if you're interested, if you go to the Oxnard City Council site, go to last night's agenda, you can download a pretty descriptive PowerPoint show which talks about what they want to do, but not really how they want to do it or how they're going to pay for it. As far as how they're going to pay for it, most of the money they propose would come from the federal government or the state government, both of which are broke right now, and also from private endowments and maybe some money from UC as well. And they justify this by saying it would provide the recreational opportunities, stabilization of the facility for nature, and also economic development in form of tourism from the region and also from without as well. Well, so much for that. Another thing that happened, probably not on such a positive note, is I went to the meeting of the Community Relations Commission last week. You know, I've covered this before at the news broadcasts. Community Relations Commission has typically done things like look for incidents of discrimination, try to take corrective action, and it's probably most famous for sponsoring the annual Community Relations Festival, which was held this year up at the collection, very successful. But what a lot of people don't know is they also established a public safety group, which is focused primarily on alleged police brutality. And I think the Limon killing probably triggered it. They've had discussions with the police department, with community stakeholders. It was largely productive, but that subcommittee was terminated by the chairman in a very controversial meeting last month, and it was reinstated, and that was announced last night. And they will continue those discussions. But they also had a fellow from NACOL, the National Association of Oversight of Law Enforcement, come in and make a pitch. He was supposed to educate us, but he really made a pitch for his services. And what they do is they help different municipalities establish various types of civilian oversight. And those who've been following that know that's a very controversial subject. Civilian oversight has advantages and it provides more civilian input, but is also very subject to politicization too. And the commission was split on that quite a bit as to what should be done. But there was a lot of consensus on the idea of police cameras, which has also been accepted by the police. In fact, they're in active testing right now, and they've already come up with a budget for that. What they don't have agreement on is the civilian review board, but virtually everyone agrees on continuing a dialogue. It's just a matter of what's the most efficient mode for doing that. And some people have suggested that the commission subcommittee might be an ideal way to do that, that would promote the dialogue without going to the extent of the civilian review board. If you're interested in learning more about that, you can actually get a video of the meetings, but you have to request it as a public information request, because unlike the city council meetings, they don't archive it online. So it's not readily available, as I found out the hard way. Another major topic, especially for harbor people, they've been talking about resurfacing streets all over town. There's a very ambitious program underway right now, which is probably about a $90 million program. And $20 million was recently approved for a bond that would handle some of the things. But the Harbor Boulevard resurfacing has been a really big issue. Those of you who drive down Harbor Boulevard know that. It's practically third world at this point. It's one of the main entrances to Oxnard from the north. It's a major tourism entry point, but the road is absolutely awful. So what was proposed was a resurfacing project a few months ago. We thought it was a repaving, but it's actually just a resurfacing, which only have about a 4 to 6 year effective life. We also found out that's only one lane in each direction, and that's a 4-lane road. So a proposal was made to increase the scope of that to at least cover the 4 lanes. That was approved last night. That's a $500,000 project. And a lot of people said, well, why not just do the repaving? Well, there's a little problem. That's $3.5 million. And that would probably come from federal funding as well. So City Manager Nyhoff pointed out a very good fact. He said, we get 4 to 6 years out of that, the $500,000. That's about, it would cost 7 times as much to actually repave the road. So maybe this is a cost-effective solution and not really just a stopgap. So I think a lot of people agree with that, and it was approved, and it will move ahead. That project was supposed to have started on October 8th. Obviously, it hasn't happened yet. I also like to urge everyone to please vote, vote, vote. We have an election coming up first Tuesday of the month. Those of you who vote absentee have probably voted already. I know I have. This is not a presidential election. It's a midterm election, but there's some very important elections for Congress, for state assembly, the school board, water boards, city council, mayors. Those are extremely important positions because local control is a big part of how our government operates. And we've urged you in previous sessions to avail yourself of the opportunities to learn about the candidates. Don't just take our advice, but especially look at debates, look at position statements from the candidates, look at analyses. Some of that is available on citizensjournal.us, which is our website, or on Facebook, Citizens Journal of Ventura County. And we urge any candidates who haven't already done it to get us a statement of your candidacy, things that you'd like to say. We print the stuff free of charge. You can also find it on other local newspapers as well. Speaking of elections, there is a group called the Election Integrity Project, which was founded to look into cases of election irregularity several years ago. And they have trained literally thousands of election poll observers. They are having a training session on October 25th. The details are in our events section on citizensjournal.us, and you can sign up for free and take the training, which is very useful. I don't know whether you know, but anyone can walk in and say they're a poll observer. That's a state law. But it helps to be knowledgeable about what's permissible, what's not permissible, how to conduct yourself as an observer, how to report irregularities, who to call, what to write. You can learn all of that in roughly a 3-hour session coming up on the 25th. Another nice thing we saw last weekend was the annual Kinetic sculpture race. It wasn't an Oxnard event, but it's in nearby Ventura, which is just up Harbor Boulevard if your car will make it up there. It's a very interesting event. What they do is they have a race over land and sea, and people build these Rube Goldberg contraptions to navigate the course, which starts out in a mud pit, launches on the launching ramp at the Ventura the Ventura ramp, goes through the harbor, lands on the beach, climbs up the beach, then they take lunch. And after that, they have a figure-8 course through the sand, and they ended up on the main plaza, and awards are given the next day. Well, it's not strictly based on the time that you finish, but also the creativity, the artistry of your vehicle, and also the engineering of the vehicle. And believe me, to run on sand and ramps and mud and everything else takes quite a bit of engineering. It was interesting to see the results. We have some excellent pictures of that event on our site if you'd like to see them. The last thing I'd like to announce is that there's a pretty heavy-duty art show going on right down the street starting October 24th. It's called Collective Voices Abundant Years Exhibition. It's at the Cafe on A at 438 South A Street.
Wow, lots of exciting things and good news as well.
Yeah, some good news.
I want to build and on that in terms of when you said go up there and vote. I think that's really key. And mail in your vote, show up to the site to cast your ballot. And again, I like your idea. Get to know the candidates. And again, between your Citizens Journal and KDY, where you can actually meet the candidates live. Not a lot of hope, but a lot of hype surrounding them. Lots of opportunity to educate and inform. So there you have it.
Yeah, I especially like your approach because KADY does usually 2 interviews on each candidate. One on who they are, their background, what makes them tick. The second one on the election, the issues, why they're running, what they hope to accomplish. And all of those episodes are archived on KADYTV.net, and you can also find them on Citizens Journal because KADY is our video partner. We work together very closely.
And just to kind of end, what I really like is we have a segment that we really can just get to know the people, them as human beings. That's my sweet spot. So, George, once again, you have a gift. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, do. So, again, this is Peter Godinez, your ambassador at KDY. Until next time.